Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is 5:30 on a Wednesday morning. On Wednesdays, we do a little thing where we pull a toy out of the toy box and we draw it, a random object out of the Random Object Randomogrifier. And we do that, well, you know what? We do that every day at 5:30 in the morning. Let me spritz these watercolors real quick here to make sure that they're nice and juicy later on when we want to use them. So I don't have to scrub them. I can just tap, tap, tap right into them. And we are recording. So I think we're ready to go. This morning, the random object is a female pilot. A female pilot, not just a pilot, a female pilot. I think that I bought a set of tubes. These made by Safari. I think that I bought a set of tubes of women in industry. But when I was trying to recount what all there was. I can remember a chef. I can remember a police officer. I can remember the pilot here, but I don't really remember anything else. Was there a fireman? Was there an astronaut? What? I don't really remember what else there was. And I'm not sure that she's going to fit on this page with her shadow. So we may have to shrink her down just a little bit, just so that there's room for her shadow. That may be worth turning the page sideways. We may just do the whole book sideways if it's going to continue to be that way. Now I've got a crease on my page because I was too aggressive with my eraser. We may just do the whole book sideways, just so that there's always room for that. Just so that there's always room for that shadow. Which one of her shoulders is higher? I think her right shoulder. I think that her left shoulder on my right side is higher, which makes her hips go like this. If her left shoulder is higher, then her right hip is higher, and that means that there's a swoop here and a pinch here that you have to account for, and that means that she's standing on this leg, and that this leg is not strained. That's anatomy. That's your anatomy lesson for the day. If you don't remember anything else, just remember that when you're drawing people, opposite shoulder and hips slope the opposite way. Anyway, it's a girl pilot. And so that sent me down the spiral about pilots, because usually I'm the guy that says we shouldn't differentiate. There shouldn't be any kind of differentiation between girl pilot and boy pilots. They should be treated the same. They should be have the exact same, respect and adoration. Not just pilots, but any kind of profession like that. They ought to have the same. They ought to get the same attitude, But in this particular case, and honestly, for the whole set, if we're being realistic, the time frame that we're talking about, there were issues that prevented them from just anybody doing it. You really had to have some tenacity in order to do this. So for instance, in 1909, when Raymonde de la Roche was the first woman to go through pilot school in France, she was not a welcome thing, other than the fact that she was a famous actress at the time that none of us have heard of course. But she was a famous actress at the time. The other pilots didn't want her in the school. They thought, she's a woman. She couldn't possibly be an effective pilot. And so, they caused problems for her. They didn't make it easy for her, but she still passed. She still managed to be a successful pilot. And that was 1909. There were no licensing requirements in 1909. Nobody actually started requiring licenses until the 20s in the United States, until the 50s in France. But she managed to go to a school and get an actual license. And then in 1921, Bessie Coleman in the United States, we kind of talked about her. We touched on her the other day when we were talking about the parachutist. Bessie was a wing walker. She's one of those stunt girls. Subtle hint. Hi, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's in the chat. She's in the Netherlands enjoying her lunch. But Bessie Coleman was a wing walker. We talked about her just briefly a couple of weeks ago when we did the parachutist, probably a couple of months ago by now, and she did stunts where she walked out on airplane wings in an effort to raise money so that she could go to pilot school and save up money so that she could go to pilot school. And she ended up going to pilot school, and she ended up being the first. She's mixed race. She's African American and she's Native American, so she got the distinction of being both the first African American and the first Native American pilot in the United States, female African American and Native American pilot in the United States. She got the distinction of being both. And that was in 1921, and she wanted to start a school. She wanted to start a school teaching other people how to other women how to fly planes. But tragically, in 1926, she died in a plane crash. And that fed into, there's no specific mention of it, not of that individual incident, but that fed into the idea that women couldn't be pilots. And so it kind of pushed the narrative back a little while, making it a little more difficult for female pilots again for a little while, and African American pilots, and Native American pilots, because, you know, racism and misogyny will be racism and misogyny. But it didn't last. Tiny Broderick also was a pilot. Tiny Broderick was not only a pilot, she was a skydiver who invented the ripcord system that they still use today. So she made some major contributions to the piloting and airplane industry. And then let's see, what else? Did she do anything else? No, I don't think she particularly did anything else. But there's something going on with this case that's not reading right to me. I have to figure out what's going on with this case and this leg. I don't want her to look like a man. I don't want to give her man feet, but I don't want to put her in heels either, because she's obviously not wearing heels. You see that all the time in comic book drawings and stuff, where the woman's barefoot, but she's standing up on her toes, because, you know, the nerd that's drawing her only knows how to draw women in heels. They only ever practice drawing women in heels. So that's all you see. All right, let's see if we can start getting some ink on that. No, I'm not talking about Amelia Earhart yet, Elizabeth, but Amelia Earhart is in my list. I got Elizabeth's in the chat asking if I'm talking about Amelia Earhart. No, Amelia Earhart doesn't come along until 1932. In 1932, Amelia Earhart, between 32 and 35, Amelia Earhart does not get the distinction of being the first to fly across the Atlantic solo. That goes to Charles Lindbergh. But she's the first to do it twice. She's the first one to land and a couple months later say, you know what, let's do it again. Lindbergh was like, no, I'm never doing that again. So she gets the distinction of being the first to do it twice. She's also the first to fly nonstop from Hawaii to California, which even Lindbergh said, no, I'm not doing. That's crazy talk. We're not doing anything like that. And then, of course, in 1936, her plane goes down, and they don't find her. They think they found her bones. In 1940, they found some bones, but they dismissed them as being hers, saying that they were man bones. But according to Science Digest, they were women's bones. They matched her size, but before they could prove it, the bones disappeared. There's no conspiracy theory there at all. Yeah, that was Amelia Earhart's story, and that's pretty tragic of its own, because if you think about that one, the thing that gets you about that one is if she survived the plane crash, and that was her bones on that island, that means she lived on that island alone. I mean, she wasn't alone when she crashed. She had a co-pilot. She had a male co-pilot, and they lived on that. They would have lived on that island until they died of old age, because there was food and fresh water. Oh no, I'm trapped on a deserted island with a beautiful, adventurous young woman. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I can't imagine that being. We're never taught that she had a co-pilot with her and that he was male. All we're ever taught is that she was the pilot and crash landed. And the idea of her surviving the crash is never really taught either. But the idea of living out the remainder of my years with a beautiful young woman, cope with a beautiful young, smart, adventurous woman like my beautiful young bride on a deserted island, tropical paradise. Oh no. And just my wife, on the other hand, she'd be like, man, I wish I'd have brought a book. I can't get any Wi-Fi signal on my tablet. How am I supposed to read? All right, let's see here. What do we have going on here? First off, we've got this hat thing kicking. And then hair, nose, mouth, or tie. Let's see, that was 32 to 35. That was Amelia Earhart. 1940, Willie Brown starts I thought it was Molly Brown, starts a school. She does the integrated civilian pilot training program in Chicago. Willie Brown was the man. I didn't write her name down. That's horrible. I did that. I wrote the man's name down and I didn't write the woman's name down. It was Molly something. Anyway, she starts this school, gets Willie Brown to fund it, can't believe I did that. But when it's a show about female success in aviation, female pilots, and I forgot to put the female's name on the ticket. It's misogyny, right? Anyway, they started a school for the integrated civilian pilot training program. She started the school and had this other guy fund it, and that was the school that trained the Tuskegee Airmen. It was an African American school. It was a school for black pilots. That was in 1940. And can you imagine in 1940 the racial and sexist pressures against a black female pilot in the 1940s? I'm not trying to give her so much badonk but back there, but there is a little bit. How are we doing on time? Oh, it's already 5:46. We need to get a move on. I will tell you the easy part about this is that she's wearing black. So that means that I can pretty much just go back over everything with one color. That'll make that go pretty quick. Ivy may not get any drying time today. I know Ivy watches the recordings just for the drying time. She may not actually get any today. All right. And let me reinforce that tie. That tie should be black, not. And then you've got some details on this coat that should be here, especially to illustrate that it's a female. All right, so there's that part of it. We're led to believe that she was alone. Still talking about Amelia Earhart? Yes, we were led to believe that she was alone because nobody wants to talk about her living out the rest of her life because she's married and it wasn't her husband. So I'm sure they made that seem innocent for his benefit, you know. So anyway, that's Amelia Earhart's story. That's the Brown Integrated Civilian Pilot Training Program. In 1950, Jean Ross Howard Phelan was the first female helicopter pilot to land on a glacier. Imagine landing a helicopter on a glacier. She was the first to do that. Not the first female to do it. Not the first female pilot to do it. The first pilot ever to do it. He led the way to some of the technologies that makes it easy for pilots to land on smaller ships at sea. the techniques and technology to keep the pitch of the chopper with the pitch and yaw of the vessel or surface that they're going to land on. Oh, whoever was watching the recording who decided to skip over the drawing, they're going to miss that part. No, she was not the first. She was not the first female pilot to do that. She was the first pilot to do that, and she led the way on how to land on things floating in water, like some of the ships. There was always difficulty with how to land on a ship that was, pitching in the ocean, and some of the techniques and technology that she helped develop solve those problems. And then Sabine Gherkin from Turkey in the 30s during World War II, she was a fighter pilot. She was the first female fighter pilot. Back when everybody said women couldn't do it. It took us another 50 some odd years to get there. 74, Rosemary Mariner commanded her first Navy squadron, was the first female commander of a Navy squadron. That was in 74. And then you've got Teresa Claiborne was the first Air Force pilot in 1982. Madeline Swagel was the first Navy tactical jet pilot, got her wings in 1920. So it took a long time from the 30s until 2020, not 1920, 2020. It took a long time to catch up to women achieving those things. And you can blame misogyny if you want to, but the truth is there just aren't that many applicants. There just truly are not that many female applicants doing that, interested in that kind of stuff. My mic doesn't filter out the hairdryer? I thought it did. Maybe it only does it on my phone. What is today? Today is the 16th. Oh my goodness. Near, when you say nearby, I mean like in the United States or in Houston, because almost the entirety of Europe fits inside Texas. But to my point, it's easy to blame misogyny and racism for these things, but the truth of the matter is just that there's really just not that many. There's really just not that many women signing up for it. There's really just not that many women signing up to be pilots, not that many women signing up to be politicians, not that many women signing up to be police. That's why it's important to celebrate the women that do it, because they kind of paved the way for everybody else. Claudia says he's more nearby than me. Yeah, he is. He is closer. If he's in the United States, he's closer to us than you are. So let's see here, because she's in the Netherlands also. Her and Elizabeth are right next door to each other. I think they're about 3 hours apart. So let's see here. Overhead. Let's go to this. Let's go to this one. So that is my sketch compared to the photograph. Let's see. Let's get it on the phone and let's see what the. Turn this microphone off. And we have to stop recording, and we have to eject this. I'm going to come up with a better system for this. We shouldn't have to go through all this rigmarole. And then we have to open the camera to make sure there's nothing naughty there. And we can show that from my perspective. So there it is from my perspective, because I'm looking a little bit more down from the top. But you can tell I also ducked down to see some of the side. Elizabeth says Claudia and I are pretty close. You guys should be having lunch together. You could be watching this together. Speaking of which, if you have friends that might be interested, please share this with them. We need to grow. I need to send out T-shirts. We're talking about when I get to 1,500 people, we're going to send I'm going to send a watercolor illustration out to somebody chosen from the crowd that day. And when we get to 2,000 people, I'm going to send a T-shirt, a Hawaiian print shirt with my artwork printed all over it. So there's free stuff involved. We need to make sure we're growing. So tell your friends, put it in all your Facebook groups. If you're like me and you don't have very many people that you talk to on a regular basis, just put it in the groups that you're hanging out in. The little girl has pulled an egg for tomorrow. Let's see what that might be. It's empty. No, it's not. Hang on a minute. It's not empty. It is Dora. It is a blue tang. What's this? What's this? What's this? Escape. I've never been here before. So this is what we're drawing tomorrow. The little girl pulled this one out of the toy box. So this is our random object for tomorrow, and we're going to draw that tomorrow. If you're watching this on Thursday, the 17th of July, and it's before 5:30 in the morning Texas time, then you're watching the trailer, and we're about to draw this. But for the rest of us, I just finished drawing this female pilot, and I want to thank you guys for showing up. Did Ivy come in? Ivy, I need the Hawaiian shirt. Yes, you do. You need the Hawaiian shirt. And they're already telling us their size. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate you. Again, this is my accountability for my art practice, and I get to come down here and I get to art with my besties. It's my favorite time of the day. It wakes me up for the whole rest of the day. It really does keep me charged for the whole rest of the day. So be sure and tune in tomorrow. Same Artistic Biker time, same Artistic Biker channel, and then we dance. We dance until somebody says they see me dancing. When somebody says they see me dancing, then I know that the lag has caught up to the stream, and I don't have to worry about being cut off mid-sentence so that anybody's going to miss out on what we were talking about. Because nobody, when you cut off somebody in mid, you know what, I faked it that time.